completely the wrong direction for the year so far. Just a couple of days after I broke the fact that we had now passed 26,000 small boat migrants for this year so far, we are now just about half a dozen or so away from 27,000. You can see, Tom, how very quickly the numbers are ticking up here, and we are on course within the next 5 to 6 weeks to beat the 36,000 total of last year, and potentially even pass the record year of 2022 when more than 46,000 migrants crossed the Channel.
So this on course to perhaps be the largest year of small boats coming across the English Channel since this crisis began. The largest number of unwanted boats coming across the Channel since probably 1066.
Well, there's no doubt that it is clearly unwanted as far as the vast majority of people in this country, is concerned. It has become an issue that was certainly a topic that was discussed a few years ago and was, an irritation for many, to effectively, for most people now, the number one topic of concern because of all of the knock-on effects that those coming across the Channel have. We can see it every day in the renewed hotel protests that are taking place outside asylum seeker hotels that have been linked to a number of allegations of criminality, and the tensions just continue to grow in communities right across the country. The government is alive to that. That's why they're looking at deals with other countries around the world, why they signed and now have operationalised this deal with France for a returns deal. But, there are lots of potential issues and sort of solutions, but not solutions in the sense that they are all a microcosm of what is actually required to really have any meaningful impact on the numbers coming across the Channel. The government is hopeful, as I say, given time, that it will have an effect. But so far, 13 months in to a Labour government, the shocking statistic tonight that we can reveal is that 50,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel under Sir Keir Starmer.
Just astonishing news. Mark White, thank you very much for bringing us that GB News exclusive this evening. Well, let's get some reaction now from Stephen Pounds. This is a dire milestone.
It's horrific, absolutely no question about that. But look, if you look at the European country, which has traditionally taken more migrants than any other and welcomed them, that's Germany. Germany under Merz, whose own ratings are about similar to our Prime Minister's ratings in this country, they've closed their borders. They've decided enough is enough. So let's actually say there's something happening within the Labour Party. Traditionally, and I think probably for quite noble reasons, there's a kind of internationalism within the Labour Party about, we welcome people. And we were a bit squeamish about thinking about deporting, about sending people back and, actually, putting up the barriers. But that has happened. This has changed now. This has absolutely changed. I can detect within the Labour Party now, there's almost overwhelming the fact we simply cannot go on like this.
And yet this scheme that has been negotiated with France, Sir John Redwood,
well, it's something.
It's going to send back 50 a week, we're told. Judging by what Mark White was just telling us, the last 6 days, just over 1,500 people coming across. So we're going to send back 3% of them.
Well, we said at the time it can't possibly work. It won't be a sufficient deterrent. And, of course, it's not a net 50 because you take 50 back the other way and you have no control over who you take, whereas the French have every control over whether they will take the 50 you nominate. And we've had a week of this now. There's no deterrent effect whatsoever. There's no proper statement from the government about how many and who will be leaving. Why can't they get on with it? Because if it's going to have a deterrent effect, you've got to advertise it. And as people pointed out at the time, it'd be such a small percentage that were at risk of being sent back that people will say, well, if I got a 96% chance of getting away with this, I will. And if I don't get away with it, I might be able to do it all again anyway.
Well, we do process them. I mean, the thing about this is there are certain people, and I think they're entitled to come to this country. I think we want to get them here and paying tax and reunited with the family. That they are being processed in France. There's no question at all about that. But look, this is the early stages.
Well, they're the ones you say that are legal entrants, but an awful lot of these people are not legal entrants.
Yeah, I know, but we're talking about illegals out, legals
to decide early that they're not suitable.
But this is only day one.
Send them back. And you say that the Labour Party now wants to do this. Well, the government shows absolutely no capability of doing it, and they actually changed some of the sensible legal changes the last Tory government rather late in the day made back again, so they were actually making it worse.
Well, we're going to have to pause this conversation here, but there is so much more to discuss. Thank you for joining in on that breaking news there. Just to repeat,
and congratulations to GBNews again
for getting that. We've got our fantastic producer down there on the English, just looking out across Dover and physically counting those people as they come in. We get there ahead of the government,
looking out for William the Conqueror.
Well, Stephen Pound and Sir John Redwood, thank you very much indeed. Coming up next, Nigel Farage's party launches their Women for Reform campaign today, vowing to rid Britain of its soft-touch approach to crime, which they argue is making women, girls and mothers unsafe in their own country. Can Reform overcome their blokey image to win over the women of Britain? I'll be asking the one and only Maggie Oliver in just a moment.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, the heat wave continues across much of Europe. Plenty of hot sunshine to come. Could trigger one or two thunderstorms in places, particularly during the evening and overnight periods, but plenty of sunshine to come by day. Eastern Mediterranean temperatures reaching the mid to high 30s in places. One or two showers possible across Spain and Portugal inland, but coastal stretches temperatures well above average in that sunshine. And it remains hot and sunny for the rest of the week, temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across the south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours, but across the south it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies, but once again some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is State of the Nation. Now, today, Reform UK launched their Women for Reform campaign, focusing on challenging lawless Britain and the specific threats facing the security of women and girls. Yeah. Now, dubbed Farage's Fillies by Dame Andrea Jenkins, the party's leading women spoke at a conference in London detailing their personal experiences of feeling unsafe as women.
Why are there no more police on our streets? Why isn't there a laser focus on knife crime? Why aren't people in balaclavas searched? Why are foreign rapists not deported?
I don't feel safe. And as a mother, I no longer feel that our children live in a safe, beautiful haven of Britain that I grew up in.
Well, the party highlighted two main issues: indoctrination in schools and the impact of unpoliced crime on women and girls. Citing illegal migration as a key threat to security, Reform's only female MP, Sarah Pochin, said she understood the unrest unfolding across the country over the past few weeks.
It's no wonder that we're seeing mass protests by concerned mothers outside these migrant hotels. Mothers who are afraid for the safety of their daughters. And why wouldn't they be when we hear that these illegal migrants are loitering around schools, around parks, men with deplorable attitudes towards women?
Well, joining me now is the former Detective Constable for Greater Manchester Police, the one and only Maggie Oliver. Maggie, thanks so much for being on the show with us tonight. It has been, of course, famously in this country, a very difficult conversation to have, to even highlight any link at all between migrant communities, ethnicity and different attitudes towards women and girls. Reform is going where few parties have gone before with their press conference today.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Tom. I mean, I've been on this treadmill for 12 years now. And in that time, I have seen the conversation move so that we are now having these conversations. And I think GBNews have done an incredible job in opening up these subjects, because they are conversations that we have to have. We find ourselves in this position where safety of women is actually no longer guaranteed on our streets. And I do think that the issue that's been covered in that clip is one of the issues. But I also would widen it way beyond that to say that the criminal justice system in general is really unfit for purpose. You know, the public have lost trust in the authorities to be able to protect them. When we look at the statistics, less than 2 in every reported 100 rapes ever reaches court. That's without all the unreported rapes. So it's no wonder that women feel unsafe on the streets. And I think the solution begins with a conversation, but we need to see action. We need to see investment. We need to see more fully trained, experienced police officers, and we need to regain trust in our public services. So there is a very wide-ranging set of reasons for why we are where we are. And of course, you know, I'm known for speaking out about grooming gangs, and those men are predominantly Pakistani Muslim men. And for 2-3 decades, we've not even been able to say that, let alone look into the reasons why this has continued to thrive and grow. And as we see unprecedented levels of illegal immigration into the country, with young men predominantly who don't share our value systems, who are young men who treat women like second-class citizens, we are undoubtedly going to see further dangers unless we get a grip of this and we address it by strengthening our criminal justice system, if that makes sense.
No, it certainly does. Maggie Oliver, thank you so much for laying that all out for us. Former Detective Constable for Greater Manchester Police and, of course, campaigner on the grooming gangs issue too. Let's widen this discussion with our former Labour MP, Stephen Pound, and former Conservative MP and Cabinet Minister Sir John Redwood. Let's start with this issue that Reform is saying, not just on the issue of migration and illegal migration, but also investment. I mean, there is a problem here, which is where on earth are they going to get all the money?
Well, indeed. And if people don't feel safe on the streets, it's terribly worrying and it undermines confidence, which also means there's even less money. But where is Labour going to get the money from? Well, it's got to spend it much more wisely. It doesn't need to give 35 billion to the Chagos Islands, Mauritius. That's a disastrous deal. They've dished out 650 million in the last week for people to buy quite expensive electric cars with a little bit of a discount, and they'll be mainly imported cars. That's madness. And they fritter money, and they need to spend more money on the things that really matter to people. And clearly, proper policing of our streets so that women feel safe should be a fundamental first thing that they want to do. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
Do you think reform is tapping into something that people in this country feel, that this sense of sort of social decay, of an uneasiness?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're not currently a nation at ease with ourselves. I don't think anybody can deny that. But I have to say, just going back to the beginning of that, I don't think, this Farage's Phillies bit actually does anybody any favours. I mean, we used to have it in the Whip's office back in my day. We had a swear box. If anybody talked about Blair babes, they had to put 50p in that. But
I even heard someone trying to elbow in Cameron's cuties at one point, which really did not...
Let's not go there. But look, I think also Sarah Poetry, I'm not entirely with her when she talks about groups of people immigrants hanging around outside schools. We've got plenty of wrong-uns in this country, hanging around outside schools. And the idea that there's that horrible crime is actually solely the province of these illegal immigrants, I think doesn't do anybody any favours.
But communities do have a right to feel that if 300 young men
100%.
are put in an entirely male hotel that is in close proximity to a girls' school, I mean, people have a right to feel aggrieved.
I agree. All the more reason, as I've said dozens of times, I think most people say, we need to process these people immediately, and if they don't have any right to be here, even if it's going to be difficult, because it's going to be damn difficult to send somebody back to Afghanistan or Tehran, but we have to actually and the sooner we bring in ID cards, the better. We can actually clamp down on illegal working, all these Deliveroo cyclists and people...
Well, they're all meant to have a national insurance number. Why don't we enforce the system we've already got?
Exactly, because nobody has an national insurance card.
Why don't we go around to the hotels and find that they've got these bikes and
well, we actually do. It's actually happening. It happened on Monday of this week. Last week.
Monday, after a year or more of watching it all happen? No, it's just not working.
Better late than never.
Shall we get back to the issue of safety here?
Yeah, exactly. Particularly for women.
So, John, it's difficult to talk about, but the statistics do show that people from different nationalities and different cultural backgrounds do have different criminal records and propensity to commit, particularly crime against women and girls in this country. Has that taboo now been broken?
Well, I think we are able to talk about it, and we're gradually extracting a bit of information from the government which has been withholding it. And GBNews has been one of the leaders in saying, give us the information. We need an intelligent, moderate, sensible conversation about this. But in answer to Stephen, we just need to concentrate on the people who've lived here all their lives, because they could be committing crimes as well. No. The issue with inviting all the migrants is you don't need to invite more people in. And if some of those are going to become criminals, people will obviously feel really bad about that. They say because they broke into the country illegally anyway, they're going to cost us a fortune. And if they then commit a crime, it's the final insult, isn't it?
But your thing about the taboo is incredibly important. I mean, I was in the House, as John was, 20 years ago when Anne Cryer, extremely courageous Member of Parliament, raised the question about grooming gangs in Keighley, and as did Sarah Champion in Rotherham. Both of them were excoriated. I mean, they both had I happen to know Anne pretty well, and she had a terrible time. So I think that taboo has been broken. And I think, but that's not the totality of the situation. It's not, the violence against women. I think you think of, Cousins, the police officer, and people like that. There's a lot of people who we actually should be clamping down on. And ultimately, we need to be more detection. But ultimately,
you can't be if you don't know who these people are.
Exactly.
Let's
identify them.
Probably don't tell people.
Well, of course, a lot of them throw away their documents. But I think, Stephen, you have a point as well. Let's not talk about this to the exclusion of our own homegrown offenders too. Lots more to discuss, of course, on that one. And of course, we'll be talking about it throughout the week here on GB News. But coming up next on this programme, on the State of the Nation, a Labour peer calls for the Clive of India statue outside the Foreign Office to be pulled down on the grounds that it harms our relationship with our former colony of India. But is erasing the past also really the solution? Also...
And say, are you still Jacob Rees-Mogg? And what is the state of the nation? You may win this mug.
Yes, find out the winners of Jacob's competition from the man himself in just a moment.
At
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, welcome back to State of the Nation. Now, a Labour peer has called on the government to remove the statue of Robert Clive, more commonly known as Clive of India, from outside the Foreign Office. Well, Clive of India was a key figure establishing British rule in India, beginning as a clerk in the East India Company, rising to become a very wealthy military commander and playing a key role in driving British expansion across the Indian subcontinent. Many accused him of being responsible for the mishandling of the Bengal famine of 1770, allowing millions to starve to death. But now Baroness Debonair, until the election a member of Keir Starmer's shadow cabinet, says the decorative frieze around the base of the statue shows happy, smiling people really delighted to see him. And that's not historically accurate. It's not helpful for our current relationship with India, and it's deeply unhelpful to see India as a country that Britain civilised. Well, now the question is, good or bad, is it wise to erase parts of our history? I'm delighted to be joined now by the London correspondent for the Indian paper The Tribune, Shyam Bhatia. Shyam, thanks so much for being with us this evening. What do you make of what Baroness Debonair had to say?
Well, I think she's quite right, Tom, as so happens. Why are we celebrating the life of a man who's a mercenary, a thief, and a killer? And as you rightly say, responsible for one of the worst famines that modern India has ever experienced. I mean, should we expect the Germans to put up a statue of Adolf Hitler and expect the British ambassador to Germany walk past that every day and enjoy it?
Are we really comparing Clive of India to Adolf Hitler? Is that not jumping the shark here?
Well, Clive of India was responsible for terrible, terrible atrocities. And remember, Tom, I mean, I don't know if you're a historian, but if you look at the historical records of the time, Parliament in London called him an extremely dangerous and corrupt man. So it's not just us now looking at him retrospectively. In his own lifetime, he was reviled and criticised.
Well, there was a big debate when they were erecting the statue in the first place, but that wasn't over colonialism. That was over whether or not he enriched himself at the cost of the East India Company. But I think there's a bigger question to step back on here. Well, whatever the rights and wrongs of the man, and clearly he was much adored and much reviled in his time. He clearly did bad things, but also he was a successful military commander. I mean, should we also tear down the statues that we have of Oliver Cromwell? Should we tear down the statues of Henry VIII? I mean, all of these people have committed atrocities and done bad things, but they're part of our history. At what point do we declare it is year zero and people can do no wrong?
Well, I think you start with the worst offenders, don't you? I mean, surely that's the answer. And as far as Clive and his like are concerned, I mean, the kinds of things they did are only, they're being misrepresented. What we want is accurate history. It's not a question of celebrating, it's a question of being accurate and getting a holistic picture. I don't think we have. I think the narrative has been wrongly projected, and people like Baroness Debonair are trying to get the balance right.
But who determines what is history? I mean, surely the erection of this statue is to some extent part of the history of this country, understanding the attitudes at the height of empire compared to the attitudes today. Is it not also explaining a bit of our history of that time? Not just what you're describing as correct history, but the entire context of the statue is a part of the history of this country.
Well, let me ask you a question in turn. Should we have statues to slave traders? I thought we'd gone beyond that point. Should we do that? Should we celebrate?
It depends what you mean by a statue of a slave trader. So, for example, people can have democratic decisions over various issues. But when it's someone who has, for example, donated their entire fortune towards an educational institution, are they being venerated for being a slave trader, or are they being venerated for founding a school? I mean, it's not someone being venerated for the evil deeds that they did. Surely we can see that there is good that has come out of some areas as well as evil.
Yes, well, it's like the argument about Bill Archer. Do you know about Bill Archer? I don't know how much you know about modern Indian history yourself. Bill Archer is a curator at the V&A. Bill Archer also served in India, actually quite a successful civil servant. Bill Archer ordered the shooting of 7 young Indian teenage boys because they raised the Indian national flag in a building next to his office. And when the officers shot those boys, they ordered the scooping up their brains and throwing them into dustbins. So what are you suggesting, Tom? Should we have a statue to the late Bill Archer as well, former curator of the V&A? I mean, shouldn't we be a bit more sort of perceptive, a bit more careful about who we venerate and who we
But isn't this the fundamental dichotomy? Of course, we shouldn't erect a statue to someone like that now. But if there's been a statue that has stood for hundreds of years, who are we to tear that down because our morality has shifted? It's shifted clearly in the right direction, and clearly some of these people have done terrible things. But that doesn't mean that we tear down our history. It means we face our history.
It's not our history. We're talking about accurate history. And Tom, please remember what I said. Parliament in the 18th century described Clive as a dangerous man and a corrupt man. So this is not rewriting history.
And indeed, he took his life over all of that. And people can debate his legacy to this day, but it's hard to debate a legacy when there's all sort of physical representations of him torn down. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. We've run to the end of the programme, but Shayan Bhatia, really appreciate you coming on and putting across your point of view. London correspondent for The Tribune, the Indian paper, of course. Well, finally, to all of the loyal State of the Nation viewers, you'll have seen Jacob kick off a little competition last week. Well, some lucky attendees of the Clutton Flower Show were obviously tuned in intently to the State of the Nation on Thursday and indeed won this coveted prize. Let's take a look. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't show that video. We'll put it out across our social media platforms, of course. But of course, that's it from us on the State of the Nation this evening. Patrick Christys is up next. Patrick, what's on your show?
Yes, OK, well, thank you very much, Tom. Is the law skewed in Britain? We had a bloke who undressed himself and started screaming at passengers on London Underground. A load of blokes there subdued the man. Now they might be arrested for how they responded. That seems very odd. Also, 50,000 illegals have crossed the channel since Sir Keir Starmer came to power. Mark Wise got the inside scoop and he's live at the top of my show. Got loads more on, but you have to tune in to find out.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain, eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south, slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours. But across the south, it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m, I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight, a man got his genitals out on the London Underground and started screaming at people, but the men who tackled him now face arrest and...
The net overall cost is therefore £3.4 billion overall.
Is it? Because the Chagos Island surrender deal will cost 10 times what Labour said it would. Plus... Were the police right to arrest around 500 Palestine Action supporters? And...
Megan, I want to ask about your look.
My who?
Your look. Your look, Megan.
Oh, my Luke.
Anyway, sorry, Harry and Meghan get a new Netflix deal, so we're going to see more of them. Yay! And I'll reveal exactly what the terms of that deal are. Also...
You've been drinking, sir?
I most certainly have. I've been drinking ever since this morning.
Well, new road safety laws mean a lower drink-drive limit and, I think, mandatory eye tests for anyone over the age of 70. Are you in favour of this also?
Migration, immigration, migration, 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 migration.
Well, actually, we have just got some breaking news from Mark White, who will be with us in a couple of minutes, that 50,000 illegal migrants across the Channel since Sir Keir Starmer came into power. But the story I was going to talk about is 150,000 migrants who came over as care workers have just disappeared. Fantastic, yes. And it's a bad day for the Chinese Navy. On my panel tonight, we have journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, we've got writer and commentator Benjamin Butterworth, and political commentator Russell Quirk. Oh, and what's going on here? Get ready, Britain, here we go. You might get prosecuted for standing up for women and girls. Next.
Good evening, it's 2 minutes past 9. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. More than 50,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel illegally since Sir Keir Starmer came to power, GB News can exclusively reveal. The figure was reached today when a further 430 migrants made the journey from France. Last Wednesday, a partial deal to return a small number of small boat migrants back to France became operational. Since then, more than 1,500 migrants have crossed to UK waters. A Home Office spokesperson said that through sharing international intelligence under the Border Security Command, enhanced enforcement operations in northern France and tougher legislation in the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, we are strengthening the security of our borders. We'll have more from our Home and Security editor Mark White on that story very shortly. President Donald Trump says that he will tell Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine during his meeting with the Russian leader on Friday. The president described Friday's summit as a feel-out meeting. He added that some land swapping will happen for the good of both Ukraine and Russia. The president went on to say that he wants to set up a meeting between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he would try to get some territory back for Ukraine. President Trump said it was not up to him to make a deal, as President Zelensky has said tonight that Ukrainian intelligence shows that Putin has no plans to end the war. Well, the president made those comments during a press conference where he announced that he's deploying National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as part of his plan to, quote, rescue the capital city from crime. The president declared it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., saying the city will be cleared up very quickly. During the president's announcement, members of the Free D.C. organisation held a rally outside the White House against the measures. Israel has killed a prominent Al Jazeera journalist it accuses of leading a Hamas terror cell in Gaza. The IDF alleged that 28-year-old Anas al-Sharif was a terrorist who posed as a journalist, citing intelligence and documents found in Gaza as alleged evidence. Al-Sharif was killed along with 4 colleagues in a targeted Israeli airstrike on a media tent outside a hospital yesterday that killed 7 people in total. Al Jazeera said the attack was a desperate attempt to silence voices in anticipation of the occupation of Gaza. 3 teenagers have been arrested over the murder of a man at a seaside resort. Kent police said the man in his 40s died after being attacked during an altercation on the Isle of Sheppey on the North Kent coast. A police cordon has been set up in a large clearing behind the beach in the Laysdown-on-Sea resort. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 and a 16-year-old girl are being questioned over his murder. And the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have signed a new multi-year first-look deal for film and television projects with Netflix, the couple has announced. It's been announced that a Christmas special of With Love, Meghan will premiere in December, and a documentary film from Uganda's Masaka region on the HIV/AIDS crisis is also set to be released. The second series of the Duchess of Sussex's lifestyle series will debut on Netflix later this month. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good evening, everybody. I am just going to give you some of that breaking news before we carry on with the show as planned. And for that, we are going to go straight to GB News' home and security editor, Mark White. Mark, big news in the channel.
Well, yes, indeed. The grim milestone of 50,000 small boat migrants has been passed since Sir Keir Starmer came to office. That is an incredible total, actually, when you consider that Labour has only been in power for some 13 months. So we're already in that period over what would have been the record year in the channel. OK, that was 12 months, but that was 46,000. So with an additional month there, we're in record territory. This year already, we're 10,000 ahead of where we were last year. Now, this milestone was reached, Patrick, when an additional 430, around that figure anyway, arrived across the English Channel today. It takes the total for the time period that Labour has been in office to more than 50,200. And the total for the year so far, incidentally, is just shy now of 27,000. And that is incredible, because just a couple of days ago, I was breaking the fact that 26,000 had crossed the channel. So you can just see how quickly that number is creeping upwards, not even creeping upwards, racing upwards. And this will make very disturbing reading, there's no doubt, for the Prime Minister, who has made Smash the Gangs a key policy within the Labour administration. One of the sort of landmark deals, it was announced just last Wednesday, was this returns agreement with France, a partial returns agreement, just a small number of migrants that will be included in that initially. But since that returns agreement was announced last Wednesday, we can also reveal, Patrick, that 1,500 migrants have now crossed the channel. So a message, a resounding message from the people smugglers that whatever Emmanuel Macron and Sir Keir Starmer may be hatching up in terms of a sort of policy to try and return migrants, they don't see it as a threat to their model. In fact, Patrick, the small boat migrant smugglers are promising would-be customers that in the unlikely event that you will be returned to France from the UK, they will give you a free trip back across to the UK.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not really funny, is it? But it kind of is in that sense, just morbidly, like gallows humour, I think, isn't it? Mark, look, thank you very, very much, and thank you very much for breaking that news as well. It's Mark White there, GB News' Home and Security Editor. There's a few other little immigration stories knocking about today that we're going to touch on later on in the show. We appear to have lost 150,000 care workers that are immigrants. So just remarkable, isn't it, really? You know, we're told, aren't we, that we need to have immigration at certain levels, so otherwise the care sector would crumble. Well, it looks like they're just absconding anyway. So there we go. But more on that later. Let's crack on with the show as planned. It feels like law-abiding citizens are being punished in modern Britain. So just have a little look at this. That's a man who's exposing his genitals on the London Underground in front of women and children. Now, he appears to be unhinged. He clearly could be a threat to others. And some men decided to, I would argue, do the right thing and step in and protect other people on the train. I and many others who have seen this clip online say, well done to those men. I think you did the right thing. OK, the women and children on there, and they subdued the man. But get a load of this. The men who tackled the naked bloke are now facing arrest because they were maybe a little bit too forceful. I mean, jog on. And have a little look at this headline, shall we? So look at how this was written by some people in the media. Half-naked man in mental health crisis beaten by London Underground passengers. I mean, look, what's going on here? What are the other blokes supposed to do? Give him a hug? I mean, so now they're facing arrest, and they're the bad guys, and the naked guy's a victim. What a country, eh? Have you seen this? A shopkeeper was sick of shoplifters, so he puts up a sign calling them scumbags, which they are. What happens? Police officers turn up to his shop and ask him to take it down because it could be seen as provocative and offensive. Well, to who? The shoplifters? Presumably whoever reported it to the police is a shoplifter. Like, maybe they could have thought, hang on, so you're offended by this, are you? Right, maybe you go round to his house and just check his cupboards for stuff that he might have nicked. But it's nice to see who Sir Keir Starmer's side is in all of this. He's weighed in on it, hasn't he? So Sir Keir Starmer would not call shoplifters scumbags, according to his spokesperson. Would he call them Labour voters? I wonder. But anyway, of course, I think it depends, doesn't it? What if they stole something from a migrant hotel, Prime Minister? Now, I reckon he'd call them far-right scumbags then, wouldn't he? But now we're being told that we also shouldn't identify shoplifters on things like CCTV, etc., because of their data protection. Again, whose side are we on here? And the latest trick is for the left to try to gaslight you into thinking that crime barely even exists. Everything's fine.
We do have problems in this country. I mean, shoplifting has been going up ever since the Tories stupidly downgraded it as a crime in 2014. Snatch theft is going up, but serious violent crime is not.
Yeah, so it's a snippet there of what Fraser Nelson was saying. It's interesting, I didn't hear him mention sexual assault there. I mean, if you go to the supermarket, cheese is in a security cage. And I know women who change their behaviours, so they refuse to go out in London after a certain time. Men aren't wearing nice watches when they go out in case a lunatic with a machete kills them for it. But Fraser Nelson seems to think it's just a right-wing narrative. I think we can go back there. There he is. Yeah, forget Comical Ali. We've now got Comical Nelson. There is no crime being committed here, everybody. No crime. But the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, basically tried to gaslight you as well today. He's put out these stats now. Yay, crime's down. Woohoo. Oh, hang on. No, it's actually awful. Gun crime up 18%, rape up 9%, sexual offences up 11%, business robbery up 38%, theft, easy for me to say, from the person up 12%, shoplifting up 38%. Meanwhile, over in the US, President Donald Trump is cracking down on violence as he deploys the National Guard to Washington, D.C. as he pledges a crime crackdown.
It's time for dramatic action. They fight back until you knock the hell out of them.
Yeah, I mean, back in Britain, does it not feel like if you step in to stop any wrongdoing, you might be prosecuted? We're not allowed to offend criminals over here, and prominent media and political figures seem to want to pretend that everything's fine. Let's get the thoughts of my panel, journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone. We've also got writer and commentator Benjamin Butterworth. I'm political commentator Russell Quirk. Carol, I will start with you. I think firstly I'd just like to focus on this slightly bizarre case where it seems as though the blokes who intervened on the London Underground to the naked screaming man might now be the criminals.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it doesn't matter whether he's mentally ill or not. In fact, the fact they're saying he is mentally ill is a very good reason to subdue him, because you have no idea what he's going to do. He could then attack a woman or a child, and if he's in the process of that, it's probably too late to subdue him. So it was absolutely the right thing to do. But this is just typical in this country. You know, people now feel, quite rightly, that the cops are on the side of the perpetrators of crime rather than the victims of crime. And if you look at what's happening in this country now, we can see that the British people are being betrayed. Only 6% of all crime in this country is solved. That's 94% that's not. And we have a rape and a sexual assault epidemic currently, and only 1.3% of all recorded rape cases, there's only ever a charge in 1.3% of rape cases. You know, in the country at large, crime has gone up 44%. In London, it's something like, I can't remember, 60% knife crime has gone up in London. So what the hell are the cops doing in this country? What they're doing is they're going after people who send silly tweets and putting them in jail. And people like your man here, the mentally ill man, nothing will happen to him. He will get a caution. He will be told that he's going to get some kind of treatment. But it doesn't matter, because he could have hurt people, and that's the point.
I don't know if I want to live in a country, Russell, where, you know, if you're like, I do think blokes do have certain obligations, and that might be an unfashionable thing to say.
We're not sure we're allowed to have any more, are we?
I don't.
So when you go to give up your seat on the tube and you get told off because it's not the right thing to do anymore. Yeah. I think that we're in a kind of law enforcement vacuum now, aren't we? I mean, apparently we've got lots more police officers and so on, but you never see them. You don't see them on public transport. I don't see them in my local high street. I don't see them patrolling. I only see them when they've got a blue light flashing when they're on the way to an incident, presumably to give an emergency crime reference number for the purposes of insurance. That seems to be what they are now. They're not the police, they're the crime reference givers. And look, is it any wonder, and I know we wouldn't encourage it, we're not inciting it, but is it any wonder that in the absence of law enforcement, discipline, standards, a proper judiciary, politicians that are actually in touch with Britain and care about what's happening in terms of those declining standards, is it any wonder that people start to take the law into their own hands? Again, I'm not suggesting we should. But hang on, let's just play this out, Carol. That individual, whoever he was, strips naked and shows his genitalia on public transport in the middle of the day to women and children. Yeah. What was but if those men hadn't intervened, what would have happened next?
That is the point.
What would he have done?
But it's not taking the law into your own hands make it sound like a bad thing. They're not.
No, I don't think it is at all.
They're preventing a crime being committed because the cops aren't there. And not where's British Transport Police? There should be somebody on every single train. There isn't.
But you know, but we're right, and we know we're right, because exactly what you've just laid out is exactly what you expect to happen these days, which is the front page of the Independent saying that a poor individual with mental health problems was assaulted by some horrible tube passengers.
Yes, and before we get onto the crime stats, this idea, Benjamin, now, so obviously we've got the case there where it looks as though the people who, you know, subdued that man might end up getting in trouble themselves. I think it would be grossly unfair. But you've also got the thing about, you know, you can't call shoplifters scumbags in case it offends them, which I think it just feels a bit ridiculous, this.
Well, I don't think it's the bit that most people care about. I mean, I was very amused by the police officers that said it could breach data protection. Yeah. Shopkeepers put it in the window. Who's going to bring that case?
Yeah.
Only the shoplifters. So, I mean, it's just farcical. It's just... what it tells you something about the police is that they're not thinking about the perception of crime. And I think this is where the real issue lies. Some crimes, serious crimes, like homicide, stabbings, use of a gun on the down, and they have been for some years. Home burglaries.
They're not.
No.
Knife crime is not.
Utter rubbish.
It's 60% up in London over the last 3 years.
So that's a survey. That's
not. Sorry, it's a survey, exactly.
It's
the
not
stats
data.
say it's up 60% in London over the last 3 years. Nonsense.
Well, what I was going to say is that there are lots of what they call low-level crime that is very visible, which is shoplifting, which is being, you know, intimidating actions like this on the tube. Those things are out of control.
not.
I'm sorry, but what happens?
But they're also gateway crimes.
Tube is not low-level crime.
But they're also gateway crimes. Do
Do
you remember what Rudy Giuliani did? Now, I know he kind of went in a bit of a wobbly way with regard to the whole Trump thing, but when he was mayor of New York, his whole approach was to make sure it was the whole broken windows, which was let's stop fare dodgers, let's stop people vandalising and graffitiing, because then it will encourage everybody to start behaving in a better way.
And I just want to say, obviously, I mentioned Fraser Nelson there, and he's been quite visible and vocal recently about this National Crime Survey and everything. Obviously, I took the mick a little bit out of him, though. I don't have any genuine negative feeling about him. I think he's done some tremendous work as a journalist. However, I just wonder if there's a little bit detached from reality.
What's happened to him?
It's all very well and good going like, right, OK, well, if you look at this on a spreadsheet, it says that, you know, it's never been a better time to live in Britain. But it doesn't look or feel like that, does it, to people?
He needs to get on the streets and feel the fear, because people on the streets, particularly women, are feeling the fear now. You just mentioned there, women going out at night time.
Yes.
Farage actually challenged a Sky journalist to go out after 9 o'clock wearing jewellery, because you wouldn't do it.
I'm afraid Fraser Nelson is drinking the Sadiq Khan Kool-Aid. It's very, very easy to grab a specific set of data using a timeline that suits your argument, which is exactly what Fraser Nelson has done, albeit it's a survey, not actual crime data in terms of reported offences. If you actually look at, let's go back in London to 2015, before Sadiq Khan was elected, all of the bad crimes, those things that we really don't want to happen to us, sexual crime, car crime, theft and violence against the person, those crimes are up by between 30 and 60% since Sadiq Khan took over in 2016. That's a fact. We could look at last year and say, well, actually, compared to last year, it's quite a bit better. But the reality is, it's not.
I just want to give a word to Benjamin on this. Yeah, I don't know. Have we been a bit unfair? You know, but at the crux of what Fraser Nelson was saying, and what quite a few commentators are now saying, which is that actually the only reason we think crime is on the up and it's bad and we live in this lawless country is because people like Nigel Farage and Robert Jenrick, possibly me as well, keep talking about it and keep telling us that everything's awful. But that's not the reality. I just feel like maybe we're being a bit gaslit there.
Well, I think Nigel Farage saying you can't walk in central London with jewellery is absurd, because, you know, the West End is full, and actually it's one of the places where you'll visibly see police officers.
Weren't you battered a couple of years ago in the street?
Right.
You got mugged on the South Bank.
Yes.
South Bank.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was threatened with a knife. I was actually
Well, there you go.
I was actually.
You're sounding a bit Matthew Stadler now, I have to say, Benjamin. Do you know what I wear now? I've got some nice watches. Benjamin, do you know what I watch? I wear a £25 Casio watch to come into London because I can't wear something decent.
See, this is the thing that our crime survey... I will come to you on this, sorry, but this is the thing that this crime survey didn't take into account, did it? People's changing behaviours. So if you now, like... This is the thing, like, oh, well, the theft of cheese has gone down. Well, that's because we've encased it in a security tag at shops. I mean, it's mad. To buy some cheddar at my local Tesco, I have to get someone to come and take a security tag off.
And how many people now... But how many people don't even bother reporting crime because they know the police aren't going to do anything about it?
You look at shoplifting. 2.2 billion it cost this country last year. Cops don't even turn out for it now. They can't be bothered.
Final word to you, Benjamin. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, the thing about the sexual assault numbers going up is that one positive is I think people are more likely to report those types of crimes because of a cultural change. But obviously, every one of them is appalling. The other thing is that it's these visible, so-called low-level crimes, and I think that's what the police just don't seem to understand. That those are the things that you see blatantly in your local supermarket, and then that makes you fearful of just what else is
But Benjamin, they call burglaries low-level. It's devastating for some people. It wrecks lives.
Yeah. One of the things that I will say about the police, by the way, and I do want to, especially in light of what we're doing in the next segment, I do want to stick up for them a little bit, which is that I don't think you can realistically have a country where your population increases at an unbelievably rapid rate, and then you do not increase the number of police in line with that. It's only logical that you will end up with more crime and overstretched police forces. But anyway, still to come. And Netflix has announced that it has extended Harry and Meghan's partnership. But there's detail here. It's not all is not as it seems. I'll reveal all soon. But next. Well, roughly about 500 pro-Palestine Action supporters were nicked at the weekend. Were the police right to do it? Stay tuned.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say.
How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. So roughly 500, I suppose, Palestine Action supporters were nicked at the weekend. Were the police right to do that? It's time now for the head-to-head. Well, they were at it again, weren't they? Supporters of the proscribed organisation Palestine Action were demonstrating in support of that banned group in Parliament Square. So a whopping 532 people were arrested on suspicion of supporting a proscribed organisation. An interesting side note is that half of them were aged over 60. Now, this has led to questions being raised about the policing of the event. There's no doubting that Palestine Action are, well, they're a banned terrorist organisation, aren't they? But did arresting a bunch of pensioners hand the group a PR victory? Or should we actually be applauding the police for enforcing the law outright? So were the police right to do it? Well, we're going to be joined now by retired police officer and director of the Law and Order Foundation, Norman Brennan, and the editor-in-chief at Tribune magazine, Carl Hansen. Thank you very much, chaps. Great to see you both. Norman, I'll start with you. Were the police right to nick 530-odd supposed Palestine Action supporters?
Well, they broke the law. They were told that if they attended and they had placards which were contrary to Section 13 of the Terrorism Act 2000, they would be arrested. They were warned, and it's not the police that make the laws, it's Parliament, and the Home Secretary designated that this particular group who were holding these types of banners would be described as supporting terrorism. So the police rightly did the job. In my view, and I'm an expert on policing, they acted exemplary. They were polite, they were fair, and they were relatively friendly. They were greeted by a lot of abuse. 6 police officers were actually assaulted. And to be quite honest with you, Patrick, many other countries, a lot of these people would have gone home or were in custody with sore heads and split eyes. I didn't see a single incident of that type in this. So, yes, the Met and other forces that Police London acted exemplary.
All right, Carl, I'm going to play a little clip now, if that's all right, because this was, I believe it was well, my understanding is anyway, this was a blind and possibly disabled man, I think, who was arrested as well. I think we can have a little look at this. Yeah, look, obviously we've identified him there. It went viral, that clip, over the weekend. You know, he's obviously innocent until proven guilty, all of that stuff. But Carl, your views on the way that the police did this. I mean, kind of blind, disabled, or old, or not, to support a prescribed terrorist organisation, I suppose you get nicked, don't you?
I don't think anyone can look at that clip of a blind, disabled man being carted off into the back of a police van and argue with a straight face that he's equivalent to a member of ISIS or Al-Qaeda, and that's what this absurd law does. Now, I fully understand that it's the Home Secretary that makes the law and the police are only following it. But I think when you look at London, where it's only 1% of bike thefts are solved, if your mobile phone gets robbed, the police basically don't even bother to investigate it. When you've got that going on, yet the Metropolitan Police can muster hundreds of officers to arrest old age pensioners for holding signs, it makes them look ridiculous.
Yeah, Carl, can I just ask you, before we go back to Norman, do you think there was a deliberate tactic here by Palestine Action to put kind of older or maybe more vulnerable people there to try to claim a PR victory? A little bit like I would politely suggest that some groups like Extinction Rebellion had at times, especially when she was younger, used Greta Thunberg. You know, you're shouting at a child type thing. It's a little bit of almost like a very small human shield. Do you think they might have done a bit of that?
I think it's just the people that are putting themselves forward. You've got older people who probably feel they've got a little bit like less to lose, and these are principled, decent people. You know, you had a lot of retired vicars, priests, elderly Methodists. You know, this is grandmas and granddads that are making a principled stand, and the fact that it's them that are getting arrested for holding signs only highlights the absurdity of the law, not the sort of cynicism of Palestine Action.
In a way it does. I mean, I'll lob it over to you, Norman, because I suppose another way of looking at that is that, like, we have a huge number of people from the Middle East who are here in Britain, and from what I could see there, a lot of that pro-Palestine Action Brigade seem to be quite old white people. So I don't know what we can read into that.
I'll be quite honest with you. We're all sick and tired of these demos. There's too many of them. I completely agree with my opposition there that the streets of Britain are pretty lawless. There are many, many other issues and concerns that the police should be worrying themselves about. And I also see and understand why some of these groups bring very elderly people, disabled people in wheelchairs, because, of course, they push them right to the front and straight into confrontation with the police. Well, the police should police without fear or favour, black, white, male or female. They do not like having to contend with the elderly and infirm, but they have a job to do. And if they didn't do their job, they'd be complained about for doing that. But the real crux of the matter here is, Pat, is that those hundreds, if not thousands of police officers were dragged in from other police forces, other boroughs that are already beleaguered and are short of police officers. They had their rest days cancelled, and every time it's always the police that take the brunt. They've become the Aunt Sallies of society, and unfortunately, or fortunately for society, the police have a difficult job. They stand between right and wrong and good and bad, and there'll always be someone that will be unhappy. But the police,
I'll read it out.
I'm afraid, have to stand between that and keep the peace for Britain and London.
OK, all right. Well, look, it remains to be seen exactly what punishment these people get. I've read some articles that, I mean, I think this would... I very much doubt this is actually going to happen, but I think technically they could get 14 years in prison. But I do wonder whether or not all of them had thought it through, you know, because that would mean that you get charged under the terrorism legislation, I mean, you can't really move freely around the world, can you, and stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Sorry, I'm going to have to knock it on the head, I'm afraid, Charles. I've got quite a lot on, and I've just seen I've got quite a bit of info I need to read from the Met Police. So thank you very much. But yeah, that's Carl Hansen there, who is the editor-in-chief at Tribune magazine. Thank you, mate. And the director of the Law and Order Foundation, Norman Brennan. Cheers. All right. OK, so this is just a bit of background, all right? It's just a little bit of background for you from the Met Police. They have not spoken out about individuals who presumably were arrested, but they have denied using excessive force against protesters. People were detained under the Terrorism Act for showing support for the proscribed group, mostly for displaying placards in Parliament Square. So that's what they have to say about all of that. I thought, you know, fair play. We've just done a segment on there being excessive crime and maybe police not doing everything they possibly can to sort out phone thefts or, in some cases, rape. But there you go. They've acted swiftly there. 532 people nicked there for essentially supporting a terror group, at least allegedly. There we go. Right. Oh, yes, gosh, here we go. Well, here's your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get £5 grand in the bank. It's the latest Great British giveaway. Guess what? If you haven't got a mortgage or rent to pay, you can still enter and win £15,000. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck, everybody. Before we get stuck into the old Chagos surrender deal, we've got a bit of this.
You've been drinking, sir?
I most certainly have. I've been drinking ever since this morning.
Well, motorists of Britain, buckle up. A new raft of road regulations is going to be introduced, including compulsory eye tests for those over the age of 70. Yes, there we go. Do you think that's unfair? And the reports of the death of the Sussex's TV career have been exaggerated.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, the heat wave continues across much of Europe. Plenty of hot sunshine to come. Could trigger 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places, particularly during the evening and overnight periods, but plenty of sunshine to come by day. Eastern Mediterranean temperatures reaching the mid to high 30s in places. 1 or 2 showers possible across Spain and Portugal inland, but coastal stretches temperatures well above average in that sunshine. And it remains hot and sunny for the rest of the week, temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The 4th heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing
through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours, but across the south it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Netflix has announced that it has extended Harry and Meghan's partnership, but all is not quite as it seems. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have signed a new multi-year first look deal for film and television projects. The couple announced that earlier today. They originally signed a 5-year deal with the streaming platform after stepping down as working members of the royal family back in 2020. So the new deal has, however, been branded a downgrade, as Netflix will be able to see their content before anyone else, but will be under no obligation to actually air it. Well, I'm joined now by Kinsey Schofield, royal reporter and journalist. Thank you very, very much. So, technically, Netflix might be able to see this content before anyone else and be the first to tell Harry and Meghan that they think it's rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, basically the previous contract was, we're going to give you an ungodly amount of money and you have to execute X amount of projects for us, which they did. We had one big commercial success, which was the Harry and Meghan docuseries / reality show. You were on it, Pat. And then
I was in that. Yeah, I was. Sorry, kids. Anyway, go on.
And then there were some very, some very big disappointments. Heart of Invictus, Live to Lead, Pearl was canceled. And Meghan's show didn't even crack the top 100. It was low in the 300s. And Harry's Polo series way in the 3000s in the first 6 months of 2025 for viewership. So it is a downgrade.
Yeah, we don't have any idea how much they're being paid for this, I'll take it.
No, but I will tell you, the idea of Meghan Markle and a holiday special. I know when I think of the holidays and rocking around the Christmas tree, I want guidance on how to celebrate from two people that have completely cut off and alienated their families. So good luck with that holiday special, Meghan Markle.
Yeah, with Christmas, a time for family, a time to let bygones be bygones. And get all the kids together, spend time with the grandparents, maybe, but not there though. Do you think that Netflix is actually doing this because they like the traffic that they get from almost like hate clicks from Harry and Meghan?
I mean, look at Meghan's With Love Meghan series. The parodies on TikTok are never ending. They're pretty hilarious. And maybe Netflix is living by the all press is good press, old Hollywood motto. However, there is a theory that perhaps Netflix is clinging on to Meghan. Worst case scenario, if something were to ever happen with Prince Harry and if they were to ever part ways, which we don't hope, but there is a theory that Netflix wants to hold on to Meghan so that they would get the exclusive in that case.
Quite interesting, that, isn't it? Do we have any idea? I mean, you alluded to some kind of holiday special there, but do we have any idea what they have got planned to delight us with in the future?
Yeah, a Christmas special from Meghan, which we also know is going to a completely commercialized American Christmas project, because on top of that, she's going to be releasing some limited edition seasonal items on her As Ever website, which is also, she's in partnership with Netflix in that. So it's going to be very home shopping network where Meghan's trying to sell us products that we can also buy on her website. There is a Uganda documentary about children that are dealing with the consequences of AIDS surrounding them, whether it's their families. And then we also are expecting Meet Me at the Lake, which is based on a book by Carly Fortune. They have the rights to that.
Oh, yeah. OK, so they could be putting quite a lot out there then, really, I suppose. But yes, it's interesting though, isn't it? Really, we'll have to wait and see what angles they decide to go on for all of that. But hey, it's one way to earn a living, I suppose. Kinsey, thank you very, very much as ever. Hey, there you go. Kinsey Schofield, this doesn't just happen, you know. Royal reporter and journalist from the epicentre of this in LA for us. Thank you. Well, there we go. I must admit, I didn't realise that Meghan Markle was going to be doing some kind of Christmas special. Seems like one way to ruin Christmas. But anyway, coming up, we have got loads for you. Drivers over the age of 70 could be banned from the roads if they fail compulsory eye tests. Now, I think this is a little bit mean, actually, for some of them. So 70 is like the new 60, isn't it? And by the time, well, I mean, I don't know, by the time I'm 70, I don't even think that'll be pension age. So are we really kind of punishing these people? They are also going to lower the drink-drive limit, which I think most people would think is probably a good thing. But we're going to talk about all of this. Does it negatively affect you? And Keir Starmer's Chagos surrender deal got quite literally 10 times worse. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Drivers over the age of 70 could be banned from the roads if they fail compulsory eye tests under sweeping changes to driving laws in England and Wales. So the government's announcing a new road safety strategy. Very keen to see what you guys make of this. But it's due to, I think, come into force this autumn, which is not far away. So they're going to tighten the drink-drive limits to match Scotland. Scotland's got a lower drink-drive limit. And they're going to introduce penalty points for passengers not wearing seat belts. Ministers say that it's the first road safety overhaul in a decade. It includes, here we go, reducing the drink-drive limit from 0.35 micrograms to 0.22, mandatory eye tests for the over 70s every 3 years, with driving bans if you fail it, potential medical tests for conditions like dementia, penalty points for drivers when passengers won't wear seatbelts, easier prosecution for drug driving by allowing the police to allow on roadside saliva tests rather than blood tests, tougher penalties for uninsured drivers, measures to tackle ghost plates, which I think is when you stick a fake set of plates over your car. So there we go. Oh, I'm very pleased to be joined now by former Tory MP Neil Hamilton. Neil, thank you very much. Is this good or not then?
Well, it's absolutely appalling, isn't it? Talk about Big Brother and the nanny state. We've never seen anything like this before. It's absolutely Labour government in overdrive, distracting us from all the other catastrophes that they're responsible for. You know, less than 1% of accidents, according to the Royal Society for Prevention of Accidents, was due to poor eyesight. That's regardless of the age of the driver. And in 2022, the figures that I've seen are there were 176 collisions which were due to poor eyesight and 6 deaths. When you think of all the tens of millions of drivers that we got in this country and the billions of miles that they drive, these figures are absolutely minuscule. So we're talking about imposing huge costs and inconvenience on millions of people who are not responsible for any accidents. Older people, by and large, of course, are much more careful drivers. They drive fewer miles anyway. And because they have the maturity which comes from decades of driving, they're much more careful on average.
Yes.
So
I just want to interject. I hope you don't mind me outing your age on air. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you're 76. I think that's correct. So really, you now would have to go for mandatory eye tests every 3 years. Do you feel like that's an invasion on your life?
Well, of course it's an invasion. Who's going to pay for this to start with? And I don't need an eye test. I do actually go for eye tests. Anyway, I'm wearing glasses now, as you can see, but I only need them for reading. I don't need them for driving. If I wore glasses when I was driving, in fact, my eyesight would be worse. So, I mean, this is really nonsensical. 19% of all road accidents are caused by people aged 17 to 25. And should we raise the age at which you can get a driving license to 25, for example, because they're responsible for such a high proportion of accidents? In 2022 also, 2,400 casualties were due to dazzling sun. Do we stop people driving on sunny days? These are the issues which really need to be argued over.
I think the test for dementia. I can see certain bits of this being good, right? I think if someone's got dementia and maybe they've not got family around to maybe spot the signs and they just carry on, I can kind of see why, maybe a check on that could be a good thing. I think for everyone, by the way, I think because they're probably just as likely to kill themselves as they are anyone else in that situation. So I kind of get that. The other interesting thing about this, Neil, for me anyway, is the lowering of the drink-drive limit. I was just having a little look then. So Scotland's always had a lower drink-drive limit, and academic studies have found no significant impact on the number of drink-driving accidents or collisions. So some would argue, what's the point?
I totally agree with you. We've become such a risk-averse society. We'll stop people doing everything because something harmful could result from it. But you remember when motor cars first appeared in the 1890s, you had to have a man walking in front of them with a red flag, so no car could go above 4 miles an hour. Well, if we reintroduced that, obviously we'd cut the number of road accidents very considerably. But the cost to society in a more general way would be vastly disproportionate to the cost to individuals in the way they run their lives and indeed to the economy. So what we need to have is a sense of proportion here in regulation. We have, over the years, become overburdened with regulation to such an extraordinary degree. It's now costing us tens and tens of, or maybe even hundreds of billions a year, and that's impoverishing the country as well as reducing the quality of life.
Yeah, well, quite. And I think, look, especially for people, I do think like 70 is probably the new 60, really. So, but I do think, especially for people, once they get 70 plus, a car is a massive lifeline. It can be a massive lifeline for them. And I think if you are making it easier to take that car off them for something a bit spurious, like the eyesight might not be quite as good as it was before, then I would have a problem with that. But Neil, we're going to have to get going, I'm afraid. Great to see you again. Thank you very much for coming on. It's Neil Hamilton there, former Tory MP. Take care. Well, loads more coming your way. Better to this.
The net overall cost is therefore £3.4 billion overall.
The Chagos Island surrender deal will cost 10 times what Labour said it would initially. Just seriously. I am going to have a conversation now about deceit, really, in politics, and whether or not we can trust a word this government says. There's also some big immigration stories knocking around. 50,000 illegals crossed the Channel since Starmer came to office, and we've lost 150,000 care workers. Where have they gone? Care in the community, anybody? Stay tuned.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours. But across the south, it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordmeat, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
the net overall cost is therefore £3.4 billion overall.
No, it isn't. The Chagos Island surrender deal will cost 10 times what Labour said it would. Plus... Are we just going to get this every week now? Were the police right to arrest around 530 Palestine Action supporters and...
You've been drinking, sir?
I most certainly have. I've been drinking ever since this morning.
Sweeping changes to the road safety laws, lower drink drive limit and mandatory eye tests for anyone over 70. Is that an infringement on your rights, Plus?
Migration, immigration, migration, 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 migration.
Look, some great stories here, actually. 50,000 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer came to power. By great, I mean awful, obviously. And 150,000 migrants who came over as care workers have just vanished. Where are they? Are they out caring for people in local parks? Where are they, these people? They've just gone. So we'll talk about all of that. And it's a bad day for the Chinese Navy. Maybe I'm back in Taiwan now, to be fair. On my panel tonight, it's journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone. We've got writer and commentator Benjamin Butterworth and political commentator Russell Quirk. And what is going on here? What an idiot. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. The Chagos surrender deal will cost 10 times more than Sir Keir Starmer said it would. Next.
Good evening, it's 2 minutes past 10. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. More than 50,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel illegally since Sir Keir Starmer came to power, GB News can exclusively reveal. The figure was reached today when a further 430 migrants made the journey from France. Last Wednesday, a partial deal to return a small number of small boat migrants back to France became operational. Since then, more than 1,500 migrants crossed UK waters. A Home Office spokesman said that through sharing international intelligence under the Border Security Command, enhanced enforcement operations in northern France and tougher legislation in the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, we are strengthening the security of our borders. US President Donald Trump says that he will tell Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine during his meeting with the Russian leader on Friday. The president described Friday's summit as a feel-out meeting. He added that some land swapping will happen for the good of both Ukraine and Russia. The president went on to say that he wants to set up a meeting between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he would try to get some territory back for Ukraine. The Telegraph newspaper are reporting tonight that Zelensky is prepared to cede territory held by Russia. Well, the president made those comments during a press conference where he announced that he's deploying National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as part of his plan to, quote, rescue the capital city from crime. The president declared it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., saying the city will be cleared up very quickly. During the president's announcement, members of the Free D.C. organisation held a rally outside the White House against the measures. Israel has killed a prominent Al Jazeera journalist it accuses of leading a Hamas terror cell in Gaza. The IDF alleged that 28-year-old Anas al-Sharif was a terrorist who posed as a journalist, citing intelligence and documents found in Gaza as alleged evidence. Al-Sharif was killed along with 4 colleagues in a targeted Israeli airstrike on a media tent outside a hospital yesterday that killed a total of 7 people. Al Jazeera said the attack was a desperate attempt to silence voices in anticipation of the occupation of Gaza. 3 teenagers have been arrested over the murder of a man at a seaside resort. Kent police said the man in his 40s died after being attacked during an altercation on the Isle of Sheppey on the North Kent coast. A police cordon has been set up in a large clearing behind the beach in the Laysdown-on-Sea resort. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 and a 16-year-old girl are being questioned over his murder. And detectives investigating a major fire which destroyed a historic former hotel in Worcestershire have arrested 2 girls. West Mercia Police said that the 13 and 14-year-old have both been released on bail as part of its inquiry into the damage caused to the Grade 2 listed Raven Hotel in Droitwich Spa. Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service said 8 fire engines and multiple specialist vehicles were deployed to tackle the fire yesterday, which did not cause any casualties but did totally destroy the building. Officers remain at the scene and are asking the public to stay away from the area at this time. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening. Can you trust a word that Sir Keir Starmer says? It turns out the Chagos Island surrender deal is going to cost 10 times more than Labour told us. It's going to cost 35 billion quid to give our territory to Mauritius without a single shot being fired and then rent it back off them. Labour said that they thought it would cost about £3.4 billion. So let's just have a little look at what the scale of this cost, right? So here you go. Number 1, it's going to cost more than half the school's budget, right? Number 2, it's the same price as 10 Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carriers. Number 3, it's the entire policing budget. Number 4, it's 70 new hospitals. Number 5, it's a 5% income tax cut. So we're just giving that over to Mauritius. Well, I mean, it's 14 billion quid more than what Rachel Reeves said her black hole was. And hang on a minute. Didn't Sir Keir Starmer maybe mislead Parliament here?
The figures being bandied around are absolutely wild of the mark. The deal is well over a century.
Now, that was in reference when people were putting to him some of the figures, which have turned out to be radical underestimations, haven't they? Figures like 9 billion, 18 billion quid. He stood in Parliament there and he seemed to suggest anyway, that those figures were way off the mark. The implication being there that it was going to be cheaper than that. Well, that's not true, is it? The Foreign Office said that claims that it would cost as little as 18 billion quid were entirely inaccurate and misleading. Well, hang on a minute. There's the stench of deceit here, isn't there? And there's a pattern emerging. Sir Keir Starmer hailed his new deal with France.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
But he didn't tell us that we'd be paying for all the transportation costs. Sir Keir Starmer said that he wouldn't tax working people.
We have been very clear that for working people, we are not going to increase their taxes. So that means we are not increasing income tax, national insurance or VAT.
Well, taxes have gone up for working people. You know, Labour fought the election on tax rises of only 8.5 billion quid, an extra 9.5 billion pounds in spending and 3.5 billion quid in additional borrowing. In her first budget last October, Chancellor Rachel Reeves raised taxes by 40 billion quid and borrowed 36 billion quid more, allowing for a massive extra increase in public spending of 76 billion between now and the end of the decade. Watch out for more tax rises in the autumn. Talking of autumn, might get a bit chilly, mightn't it? You might want to put the heating on.
Bills will go down, and they will go down not just for a short time, but for the long term, and that will come as a huge relief, I think, to families and businesses across the country.
Yeah, your bills have gone up, haven't they? So that's good. The PM said that he'd managed to get us back using e-gates at EU airports. He even released this picture to celebrate it like it was the best thing ever. Has anyone used any of these e-gates yet? Do you know anyone who's used them? I don't. I've been away a couple of times. I don't think I've even been allowed near an e-gate, actually. Is it a thing? Is it a thing? The Prime Minister says that he's deported 35,000 people. Turns out loads of them left voluntarily. But it goes even further back with Sir Keir Starmer. He was elected as Labour leader after promising Labour voters that he'd essentially continue Jeremy Corbyn's policies, ending tuition fees, nationalising everything. All of those pledges have been junked. I don't think he can even be straight with you about really basic stuff. Like, do you remember when he said this?
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
Well, then he claimed that he regretted saying that and that he hadn't read the speech properly before he went on national television and delivered it to the nation. Well, we now know that he wasn't forthcoming as well with everything he knew about Axel Rudiker-Barner either.
Yes, of course I was kept up to date with the facts as they were emerging. That is usual practice. But just like you, as a journalist, I had to observe the law of the land. It was not my personal decision to withhold this information.
Wasn't it? And we're not even sure if he was ever friends with Jeremy Corbyn. So initially, they were friends. They were friends. And then it turned out, sorry, silly us, they weren't ever friends. I mean, it's just basic stuff like this, isn't it? I mean, it was an outright lie to claim that Labour had reduced net migration by 50%. That was the Tories. The Tories' policy enacted that. It was their policy. Labour weren't even in office for 6 months of that year. Now, the revelation that the Chagos surrender deal is going to cost you 10 times what Labour said it would is just the latest in a long line of fibs. It does make you wonder, are we being led by liars? Let's get thoughts from my panel, journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, writer and commentator Benjamin Butterworth, and, of course, political commentator Russell Quirk. Thank you very much. Carol, I'll start with you. I mean, I suppose dealing with the facts of this first, really, yes, the fact that this Chagos deal is going to be 10 times more what they said it was. It's a whopper of a lie, isn't it?
And I've seen you bend straighter than Starmer. You know, his whole first year in office has been predicated on lies, and this was the biggest one. Do you remember when Boris was in Parliament he was accused of misleading Parliament over the Downing Street parties? Starmer was making out like that was a mortal sin, the biggest crime on the planet, and this is way worse than that. You know, he lies all the time. The Chagos deal, remember, he said that he misled Parliament by saying what they cost. And Lamy also misled Parliament by saying that the Chagos Islands were under threat. Both of those things were lies. Starmer insisted it was going to cost $3.4 billion, not just once, not just twice. He did it for weeks. And you just mentioned the figures. Even when figures like 9 and 18 billion were being bandied about, he insisted they were so far off the mark it was ridiculous. Now we find out it's going to be 35 billion. You know, his 22 billion black hole is now 51 billion, thanks to Reeves. It's going to be 85 billion, thanks to this deal. So this is how stupid they are. And it's, you know, it's... Lamy's been partly responsible for this because he was pushing it because he's obsessed with decolonisation. And in being obsessed, he has removed a strategic, vital asset to this country. One that was used in the Iraq War, one that was used to fight Al-Qaeda. Because I don't trust for 1 second this 99-year deal.
I think it might have also been used, I think the Americans might have used it in that bombing raid on Iran as well. Yep. So there you go. Russell, I'll bring you in on this. OK, so we've got the numbers on this, which are annoying. I think could account for something like 70 hospitals, the entire policing budget, all of that stuff. So that's annoying. But is there a wider fundamental point here, which is that there is the perception of deception about everything that comes out of Downing Street at the moment?
I don't think it's a perception, it's a reality. I mean, you listed very accurately lots and lots of things that Keir Starmer and the front bench have said that they were going to do and they haven't done. I mean, look, he is the ultimate Walter Mitty of politics, isn't he? And actually, when it comes to the Chagos thing, I mean, to the point Carol makes in terms of, you know, why he's doing this is because he's hat-tipping the globalists, the WEF. This is all about the International Court of Justice, who have said that if there was a challenge, we would have to give the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius, which is a non-binding opinion. It is not a ruling, an opinion. So actually, and it's a bit like the Falklands, it's a bit like Gibraltar. I mean, maybe they're next. Who knows? I mean, you wouldn't put anything past this man, frankly, given that he hates everything related to the Commonwealth and so on. So maybe that's part of his philosophy. We've got to give everything back to those that he thinks actually originally owned it. But the point is, it is deception, it is lies. And yes, again, to the point that when it was the Conservatives talking about pieces of cake that may or may not have been eaten, people were calling for the head of the Prime Minister and got it. And now we've got a Prime Minister lying over £35 billion worth of taxpayers' money, plus the black hole, plus asylum costs, plus. Surely he should not only apologise to Parliament, but actually should be impeached, or the equivalent of it being impeached.
OK, well, so on that, is he a liar, Benjamin?
No.
OK. He just makes a lot of mistakes. Well, no, go on, let's see what we need to...
Well, first of all, whatever the cost of the Chagos deal is, it's over 99 years. It's not as though it's suddenly absorbed in one. And so it's not half of the education budget or the whole of the policing budget, as the monologue suggested. I think that's a bit misleading. The fact is that actually, you know, Keir Starmer is trying to restore stability and dignity to this country, and we have suffered on the world.
How does the Chagos Islands figure into that philosophy?
Brexit meant that our position in relation to the Chagos Islands was weaker. African countries.
Hang on, that's a bit of a stretch, Benjamin. That's a bit of a stretch.
They're not off the coast of France, mate.
The Chagosians never wanted this deal. The Mauritians...
Well, they haven't even been asked.
They haven't been asked, but they didn't want it because the Mauritians have treated them incredibly badly. So what are you talking about?
Because many African countries had started to argue against our position in Chagos, and it was weakening us on the world stage.
What do you mean on the world stage? In respect of what?
Principled positions on issues like Ukraine and occupation.
We're not only giving away a piece of our territory, we're paying somebody else 35 billion quid for the privilege.
Just say to us, why, instead of doing... What the Labour government are trying to do, really, is use quite a clever accountancy trick, which I will now probably struggle to articulate.
It's about inflation.
Right. Yeah. So go on. You just explain how they've managed to do the mental gymnastics on this.
So this was challenged by the opposition. The numbers were not disclosed. So the government normally disclosed the workings out, a bit like in an exam in maths. You have to show your workings out to make sure that you've done things correctly. So the government refused to show the workings out to the opposition because they have invoked this creative accounting, which is to say that they take off the forecasted inflation over those 99 years to get to a net £3.5 billion. It's sleight of hand. It's deception. It is...
You don't do your own finances like that, do you?
No, but no, you don't.
They haven't done it on any other deal.
I don't work out my wages in 10 years' time and take off inflation, or the cost of my car payment and take off inflation. It is deceitful.
But I think, you know, the Treasury, I think in the story, the front of the Telegraph says that this is a standard way to measure things when you have an upfront cost. And so it's not as though this is the only place they've used it.
Why won't they disclose the workings?
That's the point. Do you know what? I don't think you can put a price on national security. And ensuring...
Explain how it's a matter of national security.
In the long term, that's why they...
How is it a matter of national security?
Lessons on national security. We did not have to give them.
Did you hear what I said? There is no binding law or resolution that says we have to give them back to Mauritius.
Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump backed this.
Well, Joe Biden
they know that this is in our interests, and that this is a pivotal area of national security.
Do you know the other thing that we've got to do in the wording of this deal? Hang on, one second. This is very important. In the wording of this deal, because of the deal we've now done, we now have to disclose to Mauritius, who are in bed with China, every military move we make.
China's going to benefit from this, not us.
Well, look, clearly, Labour would say, and they do say, you know, they're not lied about this. They've not lied about it. As Benjamin was saying, you know, this is maybe an accountancy trick that we use in other aspects of things as well. But Carol, the fact is, Sir Keir Starmer must have known this was going to come out.
Of course.
He wasn't up front with people. He wasn't, you know, he talks about, you know, reintroducing dignity and respect into politics, didn't he? And here we are.
You know, what amazes me is that this government has no idea about strategy. They're incompetent. They have no idea about strategy. And they keep on lying to us, thinking we're not going to find out. And every single big decision they make, we find out they've lied about it. Starmer lied about this. He actually insisted time and time again it was only 3.4 billion. And now we found... So this is why he has no credit with the British people anymore, because they don't...
It's the epitome of socialism, isn't it? What Thatcher said was the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. I wonder if it was Diane Abbott that did the maths on this.
Possibly, yeah.
But you can have your...
Because why we're paying it back over 11 years.
You can have your condescending quips, Russell, but the fact is that even when Liz Truss had her brief summer internship as Prime Minister, even she sat down to try and do this deal.
Hang on.
And we all know that the economy is in a far worse place now than it was in September 2022.
When David Cameron was in power, when he was Foreign Secretary, he looked at it, he said, this should not happen. There was nothing progressing this deal. It would never have happened.
I think every Tory Prime Minister afterwards looked at doing this deal.
And they did do it.
I think, yeah.
It's acquiescing to globalists.
It was a Tory Foreign Secretary that arranged the deal that eventually got signed.
And they didn't do it.
But with ourselves on, I think there is that. So the headline news of the day, obviously, is that now the Chagos deal is costing, roughly speaking, 10 times more than they told you it was. That's bad enough because that is your money. But there is that wider point there, I think, which is that are we really now in a situation where we all accept that there's spin in politics, don't we? We all accept that there is some form of spin. That's the way it is, and you do a bit of a PR job on you know, try and hide the negatives from people. But I mean, this is an absolute whopper, isn't it? And it's the latest in a long line of absolute whoppers. And now I fear that we're in a situation where whenever our Prime Minister speaks, you just assume he's lying. And that's a real concern. Obviously, Keir Starmer would presumably deny he's ever lied. So good for you. OK, here's your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get a bonus £5,000 in the bank. It's the latest Great British giveaway. And guess what? If you've not got a mortgage or rent to pay, we'll just give you £15,000 instead. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, right, coming up.
Migration, immigration, migration, 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 migration.
The government has announced a significant expansion of something that's being called Deport Now, Appeal Later scheme. I personally prefer the Deport Now, Appeal Never scheme. But 50,000 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer came to power. And you know how we were told that we need this level of immigration because otherwise our care sector would crumble. We've got an ageing population. We need people from Nigeria and other countries to come and look after our elderly. Yeah, we've lost 150,000 of the care workers. They've just gone. They've evaporated. I was just wondering, where are they? Are they like wandering around high streets trying to care for people? They're like, no, you're lost. You need to go back to the care home. Is that what it is? Where are these people? But anyway, stay tuned.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
Just a few weeks after reuniting with Black Sabbath and performing a farewell concert for fans. And I'm joined now by Alex Dyke, radio DJ, broadcaster, formerly of the BBC, who's going to pay a bit of a tribute, I think, to Ozzy Osbourne. Alex, welcome.
Thank you very much, Nigel. You know, Ozzy will probably be remembered as the guy who shouted at his wife in the Osbourne's reality TV show from the early 2000s. But there was so much more, Nigel, to Ozzy than that. He was a pioneer of heavy metal rock. And you've got to remember, in the very early 70s, the rock that was coming out of Britain after the Beatles had split up was progressive rock. It was self-indulgent 6-minute drum solos and things like that, you know, when you think back to early Genesis and Jethro Tull. But Ozzy wasn't that at all. He was a heavy metal pioneer and a heavy metal hero. He sold over 100 million albums with his band Black Sabbath, who fired him in... Nigel, did you know he was fired by Black Sabbath?
I didn't know that. For what reason?
He was fired, Nigel, because of his drug and drink problems. He was addicted. And when we do look back at him 20 years ago in the early noughties in the Osbournes, you could see then he was frail. His body was shot because he had abused his body so badly through... drink and drugs. But Sharon Osbourne, of course, his wife, was his second wife. She was his manager, and he married her in the early 80s. And he came back as a solo star with a brilliant first album called Blizzard of Oz. Ozzy was all about showbiz.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Well, we've got several really quite big immigration stories to get stuck into here. We've all lost track of the odd thing, haven't we? You lose your house keys. You might, I don't know, you forget someone's birthday. We do that all the time. But I'll wager that most of us haven't lost track of 150,000 immigrants. No, well, unfortunately for us, our government has. The government has admitted that it has no idea how many foreign workers have been hired to plug the gaps in the social care sector. Which is fantastic, isn't it? The government has also announced a significant expansion to what's called a Deport Now, Appeal Later scheme. But my next guess is highly critical of this. So, writing in The Spectator that this effectively gives a pardon to foreign criminals. Now, it seems like Labour, they say they're getting serious about controlling our borders, but I can't help but wonder whether or not they've messed it up a little bit. I'm delighted to be joined by the head of Policy Exchange's Judicial Power project is Richard Ekins. Thank you very much. Could you just explain to our viewers and listeners first, please, what this deport now, appeal later scheme really is?
Well, so the announcement made yesterday is that instead of foreign offenders who have been sentenced to imprisonment having to serve their sentence of imprisonment and then be deported, the government's new plan, which is going to try and persuade Parliament to put into effect, is that foreign offenders will simply be deported without ever serving their sentence of imprisonment. Someone who rapes or seriously assaults someone else who's sentenced to imprisonment by a judge will simply be given a taxpayer-funded flight home. That's the government's plan. It seems to me a deeply unjust way of approaching the problem of foreign national offenders.
Well, some of these countries, by the way, that are involved in this scheme now: Angola, Australia, Botswana, Brunei, Bulgaria, Canada, Guyana, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Latvia, Lebanon, Malaysia, Uganda and Zambia. So these are the nations. There's a couple of biggies in there, really. I think India could be quite good.
This is wider than that, actually. The announcement made yesterday, which is going to be put into force later this year if legislation is forthcoming, on its face is going to apply to all foreign offenders. So that anyone who's in our prison, unless they're serving a life term for murder or a term of imprisonment for terrorism offences, will be the government's intention will be to remove them without them serving their sentence.
So what I can hear being screamed at television sets and radio sets up and down the country now, Richard, is people saying, fine, good riddance, get them gone. We don't want any foreign criminals in Britain. I don't care what they do with them, just get them out of the country. But you take a different view, I take it.
We should certainly remove foreign offenders from the country, and Policy Exchange has argued for a policy of mandatory removal of all foreign offenders, but after they've been punished. So the government's approach here is not to punish them. So if someone is a victim of a serious assault or a rape or a host of other evils, they will have to see, shortly enough if this goes ahead, they'll have to see the offender walk free and if all goes according to plan, the government's plan, simply sent home without any punishment at all. It will make Britain a haven, I think, for organised crime, actually, because it will be a extraordinarily perverse incentive.
Well, if you didn't mind being, if you didn't mind being sent home,
get them to punish them rightly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what they might say to this is, well, the ultimate deterrent is that I might not want to go back to Botswana. So if I knew that I was, whereas right now it seems, I mean, we've had cases, loads of cases, Richard, and I'm keen to get your views on this. I mean, one of that stands out to me off the top of my head was this Pakistani paedophile who'd sexually abused children, who was a full-blown Pakistani national and was allowed to continue to stay here after having served his sentence because they ruled that it would be unfair on his own kids to deport him. So how does this change that? Does this change any of that?
I don't think it does change that, actually. Right. So the policy will still be subject to a whole host of challenges on human rights grounds. And Policy Exchange has been highly critical, for good reason, of the various ways in which human rights law blocks deportation of people who shouldn't be in the country, shouldn't have entered, who have committed crimes and now should be removed. That's perfectly straightforward. But the government's policy is not to punish the paedophile, who should be sentenced to a certain period of imprisonment and then swiftly removed. So, I mean, the government presenting this as though we're getting tough on the problem here, we're going to restore control of borders, there'll be consequences for criminal action. On the contrary, they're removing the direct and obvious consequence of criminal wrongdoing, which is severe punishment for breaching the law, for victimising people. After that, of course, they should be removed swiftly, and the government should be clearing away the legal barriers to doing so. But people shouldn't be misled. People screaming at the TV screen now, as you say, shouldn't think that somehow this is getting tough on foreign offenders. On the contrary, it will, as I say, be an amnesty to foreign offenders who are currently serving time in prison, including extremely serious people, just short of life sentences, and for foreign offenders yet to come. And I think it will encourage further offending and will encourage criminals to think we are a soft touch as a country. We don't take seriously criminal wrongdoing in our country.
Let's talk about that. So we've not touched on that yet. So the people who are currently in prison, so foreign nationals currently in prison. I'll just use a relatively recent example again. Some people who might have been involved in the Pakistani rape scandal that happened. So again, full-blown Pakistani nationals in prison, sentenced to, I don't know, 10 years or something like that for doing something in the Rotherham area. So they would, under this scheme, we would just deport them to Pakistan and not...
Regardless of how long they've served. So it could be day one of their sentence. They will simply, the government's plan at least, would to send them home. Now, you're right, of course, there are major human rights law objections or difficulties with actually carrying out a program of deportations. I said in my Spectator article that we need radical action to clear away those obstacles. So the government's plan may end up being just, we'll give foreign offenders the option. If you would like to to avoid having to serve out the 10 years remaining on your sentence, or the 20 years, whatever it may be, then we'll give you a taxpayer flight-funded home and no further punishment. And that just seems to me be strikingly unjust and to create terrible incentives for the future.
I just worry that, yet again, we're kind of being told one thing and the reality is going to be very different, which is that it's all very well and good saying you're going to do this, but if we have anything like the kind of, in my view, very dubious human rights law that's been enforced in several other cases. I mean, there's a case of a Nigerian woman who appealed 8 times for her to stay in Britain and then essentially pretended to join a proscribed terrorist organisation in Nigeria with no evidence of ever being part of it, and we let her stay because it meant that she would face persecution back in Nigeria. If this law does nothing to stop stuff like that, then it's not going to make a blind bit of difference, is it really? Just finally, Richard, if you don't mind, it might be slightly off brief for you, but I mean, the other big hook of this is that we appear to have lost 150,000 care workers who have come for us. I mean, I've got this kind of like almost ludicrous image of, in my head of them like wandering around parks trying to care for people because they've lost where they're from. But unfortunately, I don't think that's what's happening. What do you think of that? Because we were told we need immigration at these levels because otherwise, who's going to care for our elderly? Well, it turns out they're not, are they?
Well, it does. Obviously, we've got a major problem with border control. Have done for years. It's getting progressively worse, as far as I can tell. The Home Office has some serious logistical challenges, but there are major difficulties with the legal architecture too, which does need a very serious overhaul. Of course, the government needs to view as one of its major priorities, understanding what foreigners are present in the country, what conditions they're subject to, and making sure that if they're in breach of them, they are swiftly removed, including foreign national offenders, but only after they've been punished for their crimes, not simply wiping the slate clean and giving them an amnesty.
OK. Richard, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. Take care. Richard Deakins, who is the head of Policy Exchange's Judicial Power Project. I want to read this to you now. So this, I believe, is from the Home Office, I think. The department does not hold data that directly links visa status to ongoing employment in adult social care. All residents in the United Kingdom over time. This is about the care workers story there. I think for a long time people have felt, haven't they, that the care sector has been a bit of a backdoor into Britain, and if we're then seeing people abscond or just decide to do something else, then it would maybe highlight that. But look, Labour are obviously arguing at the moment that they're doing everything they can, and I do think that there is a serious case that, and I'd be interested to know how my viewers and listeners feel about this. I think a lot of you just want foreign criminals gone. I don't really think you necessarily care if... I don't think you necessarily really care if they serve prison time in Pakistan or Bangladesh. I mean, it might be nice if they do, but I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe you just want them out of here. So maybe that's a good thing, then, that Labour are doing. Oh, sorry, that last statement was from Bedfordshire MP, mid-Bedfordshire MP, Blake Stevenson, not the Home Office. Right, OK, let's whiz on. The front pages have dropped, so I'm looking forward to finding out what's on those. Plus... What an idiot. What is that? I'll reveal all shortly. And the government has published a consultation on removing the requirement for there to be 11,500 post offices across the UK. It's another post office scandal. It's been in force for 15 years. Apparently, that must be on one of the front pages. That's the first time reading of that. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure. And no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, the heat wave continues across much of Europe. Plenty of hot sunshine to come. Could trigger 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places, particularly during the evening and overnight periods, but plenty of sunshine to come by day. Eastern Mediterranean temperatures reaching the mid to high 30s in places. 1 or 2 showers possible across Spain and Portugal inland, but coastal stretches temperatures well above average in that sunshine. And it remains hot and sunny for the rest of the week, temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The 4th heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing north-eastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south slowly edging its way north-eastwards across Wales Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius. So a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland. But mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours. But across the south, it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be plenty of blue skies. But once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Let's deal with the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Daily Express, 50,000 migrant boat arrivals under Labour. Well, GB News' Mark White was the first to break that, so they are slightly playing catch-up there, but there we go. The Daily Telegraph, Kyiv ready to give up land for peace. Now, this is quite a significant move, actually. So Zelensky softens his position before Trump and Putin's crunch meeting in Alaska. Apparently, Ukraine seems to be ready to give up a little bit of territory. I actually did do an interview with Boris Johnson about a year ago now, maybe, and he said that ultimately then that this would basically have to happen if you just want to stop the kind of meat grinder in random Ukrainian fields across the country there. The iPaper, don't trust Putin. Starmer warns Trump. That's ironic, isn't it? As Zelensky cut out of Crunch Ukraine summit. So there we go. Be interesting, wouldn't it? I wonder if Putin's warned Trump not to trust Starmer. Anyway, the Metro, 11 attacks a day on A&E nurses, warning as wait times are fueling violence. They say they've been punched, kicked, spat at, threatened with guns. Really, gosh, and acid. No, as we try to care for patients. Yes, I was wondering if a national newspaper would chomp on this. So the Independent have gone for it. An attack on truth and freedom. As 5 Al Jazeera journalists are killed by Israeli forces while reporting from inside Gaza, and hundreds of protesters in Britain, including this 89-year-old woman, are arrested for signs supporting Palestine action. We condemn both as an attack on truth and freedom. OK, so does the Independent support Palestine action now, then?
Well, I mean, what they're not saying here is, of course, that anyone that went along to those protests, given that Palestine Action were prescribed as a terrorist organisation ages ago, months ago, weeks and months ago, everyone knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
They knew if they went and they showed support for Palestine Action, they would be breaking the law because they'd be supporting a terrorist organisation and they would be arrested. So I don't lament or feel sorry for these people, whether they're 89 or 29, frankly.
We have loads of people in this country, quite famously so, from the Middle East and from Middle Eastern nations, don't we? And yet what it seemed to me like was there was a load of quite crusty old white people who were sitting in Parliament Square.
Well, most of the people arrested were over 60.
Were over 60?
Yeah.
And
I don't care. I mean, if you break the law applies equally.
No, I get it, but the point there is that, like, again, this is quite a symbol, isn't it, of, like, the the quite elderly lefty mentality among some people in Britain, when actually, I mean, if I would argue this story, you know, what's going on in Gaza almost in a way, you know, would more directly affect some of our Middle Eastern friends who are in this country. I think they didn't seem to be all there.
But Patrick, isn't the question here is what happened to the people that were arrested? So 500 arrests. I did hear a little rumour that they were released around the corner. Now, of course, if they'd been far-right thugs, that wouldn't have happened. They would have been fast-tracked through the judicial system. They'd now be doing 31 months in prison like Lucy Connolly. What happened to them? Have they been prosecuted? Have they been taken through the judicial process? I suspect not.
Yeah, OK, all right. Well, we will go to, just whiz on now to a couple of other papers. The Daily Mirror, none for the road. Yeah, so we've touched on this tonight. Big shake-up to driving laws in Britain. These include things like lowering the drink drive limit and also mandatory eye tests for 70-year-olds and above, etc., etc. The Guardian, right, the truth has died. Global fury as Israeli strike kills journalists. We've been having a little look at who these quotes-unquote journalists actually are. In the next segment, I think we might be able to show you at least one of them has got, well, I'll just say it, a very dodgy track record, right? It does not appear to be squeaky clean, this chap. But anyway, obviously, still not right that he's been killed. But anyway, right, let's focus on what should we focus on here? What's jumping out to you, my wonderful panel here? Is there any top one that's
I suppose the boat arrivals jump out at me. The 50,000. This is Starmer spends his entire time telling us how he's got it all under control. It's all working well. He's got 1 million plans. I mean, this plan today that was announced that he's going to send people back who've been convicted of any offence.
Yeah.
This is just another tickling around the edges load of nonsense, because that means if you rape someone in this country, it means nothing will happen to you. You will get sent back to your country. There'll be nothing happen to you there, because most of the countries that are on the list don't have, prisoner transfer agreements. So that means that you can come to this country, do what the hell you like in terms of lawlessness, knowing the worst that can happen to you is that you get sent home. What kind of plan is that to stop immigration? It doesn't. It just invites criminals to come here.
Yes, it could have the opposite view, couldn't it, Benjamin?
Effect.
I mean, the point is that they would see being sent back to the original country as a huge punishment, right? Because that's the one thing that they
Well, not if it's Albania. Not if it's Albania.
And India and Vietnam.
Exactly.
Who are not war-torn.
I mean, it's amazing how loose the rules have been for very long. I think this Labour government is changing it. So now I think it's a sentence of a year could have you removed, whereas at the moment it's been 2 years.
Well, but it's not going to happen, is it?
And so
It's not going to happen.
I don't understand why it's been like that for so long.
It's
I'm glad it's been fixed.
It's all. I think maybe what you were about to say. I'll throw it over to you, but it's almost irrelevant as long as we've got the ECHR, isn't it?
Well, hang on. You just said 5 minutes ago 150,000 care workers have disappeared. So why do we believe now
Just
headlines...
check under the couch.
Yeah.
Have we got anyone? Look in your front room now. Pull your curtains back. Is there a care worker there?
So why do we believe headlines? And again, not from the mainstream media. They've got every right to, obviously, to parrot, I suppose, what the Labour Party is saying they're going to do. But do we believe it? I mean, again, back to the segment just now about the government, can't lie straight in bed, can they, when it comes to telling the truth?
Where are these care workers?
Well, they're not care workers. That's the point.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, we need if we didn't have immigration at this level, who's going to look after your grandma? Who's going to look after you? No one.
And also, where's all the children that were really 25-year-old men that pretended to be 15? Where are they?
But I have a friend...
We're in a maths class. In a 16-year-old girl's maths.
Oh, then maybe they're in uni.
Yeah.
We're training to be engineers and doctors. Of course, that's what they're doing.
A friend of mine got a scholarship. He's from India, and he got a scholarship to a university here, which he's from a poor part of India. So amazing. He's such a talented guy. And then he got a job in an Indian-owned company, and they tried to force him to be on a care worker's visa because it meant that they could pay him, I think, 28,000 is the amount. It's much less than what you would get otherwise. And they tried to bully him and intimidate him. Now, this guy is bright, and he really stood up for his rights and managed to get the proper visa because it meant he had to be paid properly. But he said it's absolutely institutional that they put people on care workers' visas to cut their wages, and they tell them they don't have a choice because they're from other countries and they don't understand.
And are the care worker visas the same as...
These aren't care workers.
Well,
other workers.
Are they the same as education visa, where you can bring 19 members of your family over with you?
Or a charity visa or something like that. I mean, you basically get a visa for it. I suppose you can go on specifically for Deliveroo. But a spokesman for the Home Office told GB News this route Oh, sorry, I've misread that. Yes, this route, which we closed with our immigration white paper, was opened under the previous government. We also inherited a data system which was not designed to monitor the long-term outcomes of health and care visa holders, including whether they remain in Britain or continue working in the social care sector. The number of people who have been returned from this country is up by 11% since the election, including those who've overstayed their visa. A comprehensive plan has been set out in the immigration white paper to bring greater order to our system by reducing reliance on overseas labour. Right, OK. So I wanted to play this clip to you because it's gone viral. A man known as Cycling Mikey, so he's got quite a big presence on social media, yeah, goes around with a camera on his helmet and basically tries to get drivers prosecuted. If he sees you, like, stopped in traffic and you've got your phone there, he'll film you and he gets people banned left, right and centre. Anyway, he is, I suppose you could say, a cycling vigilante. And he took it a bit too far here, I think. For those of you who don't know who Cycling Mikey is, firstly, I'm very jealous. Secondly, this man literally spends his time riding around London reporting drivers to the police. I mean, it looks like he's gone and actually, gone a bit too far this time. I think this is supposedly some kind of reply from Cycling Mikey now. A bit of context, I think it is. He said, I did not throw the bike at his car. I did...
It's kind of on video.
I did not go out with the intention of a collision. I just wanted to block him. But this unexpectedly savage acceleration and my slightly late reaction meant we ended up on a collision course. And it's interesting, you know that scene out of, is it Little Britain, where the bloke's stood at the gates of his house with his wife behind him and he's got this and he's like,
yeah.
I accidentally
fell over. Yeah.
And,
Do you know what it reminds me of? And you're too young to remember, and so are you, but Carol, you and I will remember Jasper Carrot. Do you remember Jasper Carrot? And his insurance anecdotes. You know, I had to swerve several times before I hit him. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, all right, we're gonna have to go to a break. Coming up, though, in the Sun, Brooklyn and Nicole Perez, me neither, renew their vows. Is that right? Nicola. Anyway, it's like it's Nicola Peltz. Anyway, whatever. Also, I think is it Brooklyn? Anyway, no, stay tuned.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's been an exceptional event, Dawn, Armed Forces Day, raising money for veterans and their families.
Johnny, well done.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you. It's been exceptional, really. I've got a lovely medal, which is another big win for the team. I just want to bring in Nick and Amanda. Amanda here is a veteran of the Australian Navy. She's married to Nick, who's a serving Royal Navy officer. How are you feeling, Amanda? Great success. Well done.
My legs are hurting, but I'm so happy that we've been here today. It's just been so much fun, it really has, and for such a great cause.
And this is a charity you both support very closely, Nick.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the Armed Forces protect the nation. SAPA protects the Armed Forces. We're really happy to be out today. It's been a super reception right the way along the route. Loads of lovely people out today, so it's been good fun. Sore legs.
And both of you met through the Navy, of course. It's an exciting Armed Forces love story. It must be wonderful for you to both give back to the Armed Forces community today.
Absolutely, and we will never stop giving back. You know, we're Matlows at heart. I'm a veteran. I work for an aerospace and defence company who are going to match our donations that we raise, and it's just really exciting. So we'll always keep giving back.
And Nick, for you, you're still serving, but you must have such a close connection with our veterans community as well. Many people you must have known on this walk here today, over 1,200.
Yes.
How does it feel still serving in the Royal Navy, seeing how many members of the Armed Forces continue to support veterans and their families?
I think you never leave the Armed Forces. You never leave it, and it's lovely to see that the relationships that you form in service continue after. And you know, we work very hard to stay connected to all of our old shipmates and people that we've worked with for many years and sort of sat alongside in some odd places around the world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's do the remaining front pages. The Sun. Moment Son dumps Beckham's to have and to hold a grudge. This is the epic row, apparently, between Brooklyn, Beckham, of course, and his parents. So we'll get more detail on that from Carol. The Daily Mail, A&E waits fuel 4,000 attacks on NHS staff a year. They've also got this Brooklyn Beckham story, so you know what do I know? It is news and people do care. The Times, Trump, I will try to get Ukraine some land back. Is this deal that he's going to get? Apparently Ukraine are willing to give a bit of territory up. Carol, Brooklyn Beckham, talk to me.
I don't know how you don't get this as a big story. This is huge because as everyone else knows apart from you, Brooklyn Beckham and his wife have fallen out with the Beckham family.
Why?
Well, I think I know. I think it's because Nicola Peltz's daughter of a billionaire. And I think that Victoria was probably taking up too much influence within her relationship. Victoria likes to take charge of things, and I suspect Nicola wasn't having it. So they've had this massive row. And Brooklyn has got nothing to do with his family now. So what they've done is, and this is really painful, I would suspect, for the Beckhams. They're renewing their vows. It's like a second marriage, and not a single Beckham member of the family was there. That's going to really hurt Victoria and David. And when you look at it, you know, Brooklyn has no discernible talents. He's been brought up by a family who've given him everything, and he turns his back on them because he's got a bigger, richer family now, and he doesn't care. But he will care when this breaks up, and it will.
He appears to be quite rubbish at everything. I mean, the photography book's a complete farce.
Remember the cooking?
The cooking, which is just like, here's how to do a bacon sandwich.
So are we talking about the Beckhams or Harry and Meghan here? Because they're interchangeable in this scenario.
They kind of are, you're right.
Exactly. Any views?
I met Brooklyn as a baby.
Right.
Yeah.
When you were a baby or he was a baby?
I was only a few years older, but yeah. Not
Did you like him?
But at least
was that at David Lloyd's by any chance in Cheadle Heugh? Because that's where I met him.
Was at the Trafford Arms in
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
At least
technically, David Beckham owes me 20p because I once paid for Brooklyn's Ribena out the David Lloyd's there, not realising it was Brooklyn, and back again. And anyways, yes, paying back with interest. I'm now a millionaire. OK, right, well, thank you very much. My wonderful panel. Loved every second. And, well, I've got another hour, you lucky people, where we go in more detail on some of the whoppers on tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Stay tuned.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The fourth heat wave of the summer is well underway, turning quite warm and muggy overnight, which could lead to a risk of thunder across parts of England and Wales. But for the majority, it should remain mostly settled. That's all thanks to high pressure situated to the east of the country, but where we see this frontal system lie across the far north of Scotland. More cloud here, some outbreaks of rain eventually pushing northeastwards into the Northern Isles. But it's this area across this south slowly edging its way northeastwards across Wales and central parts of England through the early hours of the morning. This is a chance where we could potentially hear some rumbles of thunder overnight. But tonight it is set to be particularly warm and muggy, especially across the south. Some towns and cities not dropping much past 18, possibly even 19 degrees Celsius, so a little bit uncomfortable for some. And then during the early hours of the morning, we'll still see some quite blustery outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland, but mainland Scotland should mostly be dry and bright overnight. We could start to see some of those heavy thundery showers pushing through into Northern Ireland and northern parts of England during the very early hours, but across the south it should start to brighten up. But we could see some remnants of cloud across central areas for a time, eventually clearing away as those thundery showers continue to push their way northwards. And by the afternoon in particular, there should be Plenty of blue skies, but once again, some quite hot temperatures, a little warmer compared to this afternoon, particularly across central areas of England, where we could start to see temperatures push into the mid-30s. But even across the north, even where we see those cloudier skies, still temperatures in the mid-20s. So it's going to be a hot, if not very hot day for many. And then through into Wednesday, the middle part of the week, fairly similar conditions. There are still a risk of showers, northeastern parts of Scotland. Later on across southern England, there is a chance of hearing some rumbles of thunder. But for many areas, once again, plenty of fine and dry weather. But from Wednesday onwards, we'll start to see a slight decrease in those temperatures. Nevertheless, though, it is going to continue to feel warm in that sunshine.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Do you care about Brooklyn Beckham? No, me neither, but he's on the front of 2 national newspapers and apparently he's fallen out with his dad. Why doesn't David just cut him out the will and he'll come crawling back? The Daily Express: 50,000 illegal migrant arrivals since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. There are several big migrant stories knocking around, including the fact that we've lost 150,000 care workers. A lot of stuff doing the rounds about the attacks on A&E nurses as well. People saying long waits are on the right, are causing it. We've got all of that and loads more. Don't miss Late Edition.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
Practice Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, Late Edition, breaking right now.
50,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer came to power.
Yes, another grim milestone in the Channel, and it is on the front now of the Daily Express. PM's scandalous failure sees Channel Crossing's landmark hit a record in 401 days. But what about this promise?
To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
Yeah, not really words out, has it? Meanwhile, Kevin Badenoch has suggested creating a Calais jungle in the UK to house migrants. What do you make of that? In other news, what does President Trump think of Russia?
Massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it.
Is that true? You see, we don't know. People are slugging him off, right? And it's, yes, apparently it's true. They have 11 times. Anyway, President Trump has said that he will try to recover Ukrainian territory from Russia ahead of his Alaska meeting with Vladimir Putin. And finally...
And it is all but over! Goal to Great Britain. Awesome. The gold medal!
We are the best tuggers in the world. We are. Oh, they didn't like me making that joke, did they? Cut me off. Anyway, joining me this evening, we've got the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. We've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth and GBNews contributor and comedian Leo Kearse. But first, let's get your news with Katie Bowen.
Patrick, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 2 minutes past 11. More than 50,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the English Channel illegally since Sir Keir Starmer came to power, GB News can exclusively reveal. The figure was reached today when a further 430 migrants made the journey from France. Last day, a partial deal to return a small number of small boat migrants back to France became operational. Since then, more than 1,500 migrants have crossed to UK waters. A Home Office spokesman said that through tougher legislation in the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, the government is strengthening the security of our borders. US President Donald Trump says that he will tell Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine during his meeting with the Russian leader on Friday. The president described Friday's summit as a feel-out meeting. He added that some land swapping will happen for the good of both Ukraine and Russia. The president went on to say that he wants to set up a meeting between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he would try to get some territory back for Ukraine. The Telegraph newspaper are reporting tonight that Zelensky is prepared to cede territory held by Russia. Well, the president made those comments about the war during a press conference where he announced that he's deploying National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as part of his plan to, quote, rescue the capital city from crime. The president declared it a liberation day for Washington, D.C., saying the city will be cleared up very quickly. During the president's announcement, members of the Free D.C. organisation held a rally outside the White House against the measures. Israel has killed a prominent Al Jazeera journalist it accuses of leading a Hamas terror cell in Gaza. The IDF alleged that 28-year-old Anas al-Sharif was a terrorist who posed as a journalist, citing intelligence and documents found in Gaza as alleged evidence. Al-Sharif was killed along with 4 colleagues in a targeted Israeli airstrike on a media tent outside a hospital that killed 7 people in total. Al Jazeera said the attack was a desperate attempt to silence voices in anticipation of the occupation of Gaza. 3 teenagers have been arrested over the murder of a man at a seaside resort. Kent police said the man in his 40s died after being attacked during an altercation on the Isle of Sheppey on the North Kent coast. A police cordon has been set up in a large clearing behind the beach in the Laysdown-on-Sea resort. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 and a 16-year-old girl are being questioned over his murder. And detectives investigating a major fire which destroyed a historic former hotel in Worcestershire have arrested 2 girls. West Mercia Police said that the 13 and 14-year-old had both been released on bail as part of its inquiry into damage caused to the Grade 2 listed Raven Hotel in Droitwich Spa. Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service said 8 fire engines and multiple specialist vehicles were deployed to tackle the fire, which did not lead to any casualties, but totally destroyed the building yesterday. Officers remain at the scene and are asking people to stay away from the area at this time. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome along to Late Edition. Let's whiz you through all of Tuesday's front pages. The Daily Express, 50,000 migrant boat arrivals under Labour. So it's 50,000 in the 401 days since Sir Keir Starmer was elected as Prime Minister. The Daily Telegraph, Kiev ready to give up land for peace. When doing this, Boris Johnson actually did say about a year ago that this would ultimately have to be the solution. Volodymyr Zelensky is going to have to give away a lot of territory in order to stop the war. You know, how much is the question? What's going to happen there? We'll probably talk about that a little bit later on. The I paper, don't trust Putin. Starmer warns Trump. Interesting, because Putin's probably warned Trump not to trust Starmer. But Zelensky cut out of Crunch Ukraine summit. The Metro. Now, this story is on 3 national newspaper front pages. 11 attacks a day on A&E nurses. It's a surge, really, in violence towards nurses at A&E. Well, hospitals, isn't it? The Independent, an attack on truth and freedom, they say. They're carrying 2 stories in one here. They say that Israel's killed 5 very well-behaved and well-meaning Al Jazeera journalists, none of whom, of course, have ever done anything wrong. And the Palestine Action Brigade as well. An 89-year-old woman was arrested. I mean, 89, gosh, she's had 89 years to learn what a terrorist organisation is and then not support it on the streets of Britain, really. But there we go. The Daily Mirror, none for the road. Biggest changes for decades as drivers' alcohol limit is reduced in line with Scotland, and of course it has made no difference in Scotland, but that's not to say it won't make a difference over here. And also you're going to have to take eye tests if you're over 70. The Guardian, the truth has died. Global fury as Israeli strike kills journalists. They also go attacks on A&E nurses. The Sun have got a big story about Brooklyn Beckham and his wife Nicola Peltz, I think. There appears to be this monumental feud, which is Brooklyn, who has no discernible talents whatsoever, has cut off his family.
Mind you, he has got one talent. He's married a billionaire's daughter.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the
big story. Which he would not have been able to do had he not been David Beckham's son.
Correct. So everything is going his way. And what I'm looking forward to is the divorce, because then they'll all get back together again, and everything will be fine.
Like a sort of Prince Harry figure. Do you think he'd actually sue for alimony if he divorces this rich daughter?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Beck should just write him out of the will, wouldn't he? Come crawling back. Anyway, the Daily Mail, A&E waits fuel 4,000 attacks on NHS staff a year. And finally, the Times, Trump, I will try to get back some land for Ukraine. Look, let's just start with the Daily